Cognitive health in cultural perspective is a subject that, especially now in the pandemic situation, generally is not considered or not even mentioned. And exactly in this presentation, we wish to consider two important elements in health. Not only how we as human beings perceive health, but also how the social cultural environment define not only the condition that we have related to health, but the way how we think about health, what health is, what health really consists of. And in order to introduce ourselves in this concept, we wish to read the Word of God in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price, so glorify God in your body. This Bible text is the presentation of the integrative health about the concept of culture. And it's exactly the description in three main dimensions about physicality, rationality, and also emotional aspect. Beside that, we have three main elements related with the somatic and psychological aspect of our body from the perspective of the cognitive anthropology. So we have the matter as such. This will be our anatomy and physiological functions and structure. Then we have a very important element to consider, and that is the ownership. Who designed it, to whom belong, how is entrusted to us. And the purpose of our body is related also with our existence and the quality of life. And in these two Bible texts, the main concept of social and cultural health is included. So design, structure, and function seem three elements that in a sequentially understanding in culture, people related with health and quality of life. Let us go further and complement this first Bible text in Corinthians with Romans. Romans 12, verse 1, 2, and 4, and 5 introduce us to other qualities, attributes, and important elements that contribute to the total understanding of health as a global, holistic, and integrative element in our lives. First of all, Romans 12, 1 and 2 present us our bodies as holy and acceptable, considering as a spiritual worship by the sacrificing and surrender the physicality of our body to our mental development and spiritual context. From other side, in verse 4 and 5 of Romans 12, we find the uniqueness and the plurality at the same time. By comparison and contrast, we find in these Bible texts that it is only one body, but they are many members. That every member has different functions, but all of them are coordinated and complementary among themselves because it's only one body in Christ. So in both references that we have here from Romans 12, we have very important elements to consider about the understanding or the biblical perspective about health and body as such. So first of all, we find the relationship between structure and function that are interdependent. Order, organization, and integration is a constitutive way to understand human body systems. and of course, the interdependence between body parts. At the same time, this relationship between body and mind is connected with the correlation, transformation, and restoration in the human body. With other words, is the element that constitutes a holistic or integrative concept of health in the Bible. And without doubt, we find twice confirmed the plurality of function inside in the uniqueness of the physicality. That is the cultural concept of health inside of the Bible. But we, as Christians, we have a biblical culture. We understand our environment. We understand our lives according to the concepts of the Holy Scriptures. But beside this very important element in our life, every one of us belong to a specific culture. And when we speak about culture, we are speaking as elements like race, ethnicity, national identity, behavior, preferences in food, food choices, and the way how we see ourselves as body and as mind. So it's not irrelevant to consider that health is a universal concept and is a globalized perspective. It's exactly the opposite. So culture is an extremely important factor that influences health and behavior, and especially is related with the way how we grow up, with whom we grow up, and where we grow up. So place, circumstances, and people around us create the way how we oriented our life toward health. I wish to give only one example that is very interesting in today research about these differences that underline sicknesses and also ways to stay healthy or damage our health. For example, one of the most common cancers in, for example, South Korea is related with stomach and digestive system in general. In fact, the most common cancer and second leading cause of cancer death in the United States is breast cancer. So it's not irrelevant what we eat, how we understand health according to continental parts of this earth, and the things that we eat that characterize also the way how we are more influenced by certain kind of diseases or maladies. That is only one example that depend extremely about the food that we intake and the portions of it. Let us go specifically to the health belief model. Culture and health belong together. We cannot separate it because every one of us is an identity and have a specific way of understanding the world based on the environment, cultural environment where everyone grew up. So this social cultural perspective is especially studied in cognitive anthropology and medical anthropology from the perspective of health communication. When you look at the diagram, you can see clearly that behavior in health is connected with the beliefs that we have, something that is good or something that is bad, something that will promote health or will damage our health. This provokes an attitude toward specific behaviors. For example, are cultures that completely rejected smoking or alcohol drinking. and is not connected with a spiritual or religious norm or regulation, but it's a cultural background principle. And this changed completely the attitude of the behavior. Beside that, we have normative beliefs. It's not only but what we need that, and we know that biologically is damaging our health, but also the structure, the normative of these principles that we have applied in our lives. For example, very consistent times for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Number of times that we eat in a day. The pieces of fruits or vegetables that we intake during a day. That is a subjective normative, but is connected with the general normative belief. And in fact, is pending between intentions and behavior. But is the culture, the background concepts and understanding about life that control our beliefs and perceive the behavioral control that explain to us, let us eat more than that or less from that other thing. So the actual behavioral control about food intake and general understanding of health is connected with a social cultural perspective. I used to connect this main idea with Proverbs 23:7. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. So here is an extremely important thought. So we are what we think. With other words, we behave according to our culture, according to the normatives, the regulations, the belief, the values, the ethical background. So culture is learned, is shared, is transmitted intergenerationally. So from generation to generation, group values, beliefs, norms, practices, patterns of communication, familial roles, and other social regulations are transmitted. So culture is dynamic and is adaptive. So we cannot see culture as a static human dynamic. The cultural characteristic for a specific group is associated with the way how they behave for the conservation, the preservation of the health, or the damage of themselves. So we have external and internal variables for the understanding of health. So it's the theory of reason action or theory of planet behavior. When you look at this new diagram, you will see that are several elements that influence our perspective about health. For example, the demographic variables. These have to do with the age range where we are. Young people have specific preferences, even if they are part of a globalized culture. More adult people or young adults, in contrast with children, they have generally different conceptual understanding of preferences in connection with food. The personality traits of every one of us are ensemble, are connected with these important elements. So we have the behavioral beliefs, what we understand that is right to behave, right to eat, and right to preserve our health. And this is an attitude toward specific products, circumstances, but always is covered and influenced and transformed by subjective norms that appear all along different circumstances where we are in our life. And the combination of both of them produce our final behavior. And now that we live in special situations in this pandemic, with this introductory definition of terms, I wish that we introduce ourselves in a continental disparity toward COVID-19. Because generally, when we listen to the news, we see COVID-19 is all over, people is dying every single day, and that is absolutely true, but it's not the same proportion of infections, transferring of sickness, recovery, and process of positive way to recover from these circumstances. And this is an extreme disparity. When you look at this diagram, you will see from the World Health Organization, the way how they analyze from March 1st through May 25, 2020, the disparity according to continents. And it's remarkable. For example, if you consider the line that is green and the two greens line and the red line, so Southeast Asia, Western Pacific, and Africa, they are extremely low affected by the COVID-19 cases. From the other side, Americans, Europe, and Eastern Mediterranean are extremely high in comparison. So it's a continental disparity, and we need to understand why are continents that are so much inflicted by COVID-19 and others are not. But besides the continental aspect, we will see in this next diagram not only the impact of COVID by the affected population, and that is an extended diagram that we will see here, but also the affected per 1,000 people, die, recover, fail to recover, and active cases. That is a data from Johns Hopkins University Center of System Science and Engineering, and is compiled until February 1st, 2021. So we can really consider very positively this information. And we will go through, and immediately you will be shocked by the results. For example, Asia is the most populated continent on this earth. In fact, 4,722,000 million inhabitants, okay? So from this million of people, only 0.58% are affected. Affected per 1,000 people is 5.85%. Die per these 100,000 people is 0.097%, almost 1%. Recover is 93%. Fail to recover, 2%. Active cases, 6%. Africa. Africa is the second most populated continent on this earth. And the affected population is 0.29%. High levels of risks were considered for Africa. And that was a shock for researchers, medical researchers, and general social economical researchers. The people affected is 2.86%. Die per 1,000 people, 0.074%. Recover, 87%. Fail to recover, 3%. Active cases, 11%. Now, Europe, North America, and South America have the higher rates of affected population and also active cases. For example, Europe have 4.5 affected population from the total amount of it. Affected per 1,000 people, 45.5, die 1.10%, recover only 45%, fail to recover 2%, active cases 52%. North America, affected population 5.3. Under North America, we have Canada and United States. Affected 52.8, died 1.15, recovered 46%, failed to recover 2%, and active cases 52%. So if we consider population and affected population toward the total, Europe and North America is similar in percentages, even if it's a little lower the total population. South America have 3.8 affected population, affected per 1,000 people, 38.5%, die per 1,000 people, 1%, recover 90%, fail to recover 3%, and active cases 8%. Oceania, considering the lower populated continent on Earth, 42 millions, have 0.12 affected population, is high if we consider the comparison with Asia or Africa, for example, based on the total population. Affected per 1,000 people, 1.20%, died 0.026%, recovered 68%, failed to recover 2%, active cases 30%. I think only looking at this statistical information is extremely important for us. One main conclusion: high developed continents suffer the most, are the ones more affected, are the ones less recover, and are the ones that have the higher percentage of active cases, and at the same time also the higher level of casualty. From the other side, the so-called underdeveloped countries, in focusing in two main continents, Asia and Africa, have the lower affected population, even if they are the most populated. So it's not an element that is connected with demographic aspects in number, but we will see have to do with age, food preferences, cultural background, and social cultural relationship. So let us go to a next diagram that have to do with age distribution, and the distribution between age and the rate of total population, considering the distribution of the deaths. So again, when you look out to the right diagram, you will see the underdeveloped countries have a higher level of younger population. That is a very extremely important element here for surviving COVID-19. So the high developed continents have a higher percentage of aging population, people older than 45, even until 100. That is a minimal percentage considering affected by the rest of the underdeveloped continents. So it's not the population, but it's the age of the population that is extremely important. And by this point, we need to consider that the higher level of deaths of born people is higher in the underdeveloped countries. but the ones that survive achieve a higher level of capability of resilience from the physical and biological aspect. It's exactly the opposite, by contrast with the developed countries. So this is one very important factor, age of population, demographical in this point. Let us go to our next element that is extremely important, related with this continental disparity toward COVID-19. So we have here another diagram connected with gross continental data in health. And that is especially compared with United States and Europe. United States and Europe as the higher regions with casualties related with COVID-19. So beside the demographical element and the levels of older population in the demographic concept, we have here something extremely important. So obesity, heart diseases, smoke habits, diabetes, stroke, lung diseases, cancer, hypertension, these are the most common element of death in both continents. And at the same time, they are the two continents that evidences the high level of influence of COVID-19. So it's not only the age, it's not only the so-called high sophisticated industrial society, but also the food choices, the way how the overindulgence and the lack of understanding of body as a holistic perspective influence these two main continents. Now, let us go to our next slide and let us consider fourth main elements why Asia countries outperforming the Western world in controlling COVID-19 pandemic. And I will say that is also equivalent to Africa. So the two most populated continents with a higher percentage of young people are the more healthy continents. But at the same time, they are the underdeveloped or so-called underdeveloped countries. So why they were able, theoretically, without the health system infrastructure that, for example, North America or the European continent provided to the citizens. Okay, the first point, for example, by the Asian population, as we have mentioned, is younger in comparison with the European and North American one. So that is extremely important. In Africa, the values and percentages are very similar. Second, both continents, Asia and Africa, they are used to confront infectious diseases. For example, SARS outbreak in 2003, notably in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and other also small countries of the Asian continent, they have already a certain mental and cultural education toward this kind of pandemics. A third very important elements in Europe and in America, the adoption of face masks, of the physical distance was not an easy task to the authorities to enforce. In the Asian culture, the maintenance of interpersonal distance and the use of face masks are more common, exactly because they have a background understanding about these kind of things. Also, hugging, kissing, and the way of greeting is extremely important. For example, the way of greeting generally in Asia don't influence the physical contact. So it's automatically a distance, even if it don't correspond to the present social distance, but is always a separation, an intercultural distance between the subjects that are greeting themselves. The discipline that characterize Asian continent as such, as part of their culture, is the very important element here to consider. The understanding of health as a compact and integrative element in Asian culture, like Hinduism, Confucianism, Buddhism, that if one part of the body is affected, or the nature is affected, or if other people is affected, everybody is affected. So the multifunctional social relationship toward health is completely different if we compare with the understanding of health in the European or North American continent, that health is considered a mechanicistic process. So if my finger is damaged, the rest of my body is perfect. It's not any disbalance whatsoever. What we need to take care is only the finger, not my mind, not my feelings, not the rest of the body is affected. So this integrative concept of health versus the isolated and mechanicistic concept of health in the so-called high developed continents are and create a remarkable difference. A fourthly element is the reduction in mortality based on consumption of certain foods. It's important to consider that it's not irrelevant what we eat to our level of vulnerability toward sicknesses. In fact, the continents that consume the higher level of grains, fruits, and vegetables are the continent of Asia and Africa. So when we put all these things together, all these different factors, we can understand that these intercontinental disparities have to do with a background, culture, and belief toward health. For example, the social cultural context of eating and food choice. That is our next slide. And that is extremely important for health condition. For example, we assume that 5 billion people in the world eat an average of 3 meals a day, or 5 billion meals in total. So it's virtually certain, according to this calculation, that the great majority of these meals are eaten with someone else, or at least somebody have prepared it. So we have a sense of socialization in this process. So let us estimate approximately 25% of all meals are taken alone. That is more consistent, especially in European and North American population. But it's extremely important to consider not only the fact of eating, but the food choices. And every one of us as human race, independently where we are located, this is a necessity. But the way of choosing the food, that is completely defined according to environmental factors and social, cultural, and believable values. For example, let us go to our next slide and see the share of dietary energy derived from cereals. And we will consider by comparison 3 main sections of countries: developing, industrialized countries, and transition countries. So the ones that take the majority of the dietary energy from cereals are developing countries. So the poorest one, theoretically the less favored from economical well-being, are the ones better on the way of choosing food and intake of food based on cereals intake. The transitional countries are those that are in between, and we see that still are developing same habits as the industrialized countries that have the lower level of share of dietary energy derived from cereals. Now, the origin of calories from major commodities in developing countries is again extremely important here, and is connected with an escalation in time. So you have here from 1964 until the projection to 2030. So we will see that the higher level and high calorie intake per capita is based on meat and sugars intakes that, of course, decrease the intensity of health capability. For example, the consumption of livestock products for meat in general. Let us see that per capita in this table according to regions, and again is connected between developing countries, Near East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, East Asia, South Asia, industrialized countries, and transitional countries. So in order to understand better, we can look to the higher percentages, kilograms per year per meat. So between 1964 to 1966, the industrialized countries consume per capita 61.5% kilograms per year of meat. From 1997 to 1999, increased to 88.2%. So the general idea until 2030 is that will be 100% increase in the kilograms per year of meat. If we compare with the meal consumption per capita, kilograms per year is parallel with not only meat, with milk intake. So the industrialized countries are the ones, together with the transitional countries, that consume the higher level of meat and the higher level of milk. And they are the ones more affected by COVID-19. So, for example, the lower level of consumption of meat and milk we find in East Asia, in Sub-Saharan Africa, and South Asia. And that is exactly the continents or the regions of these continents with the lower level of COVID-19. So it's not irrelevant, the products that produce the environment where we are in, the food choices, and both of them depend on our cultural and belief background. So now a question: food and health, individual, cultural, or scientific matter? And we already confirmed that food is culture. People speak about French cuisine, Asian cuisine, African cuisine. So it's characteristical products, way of preparation, and spices, the way how it's prepared, that is characteristic for continental, regional, and cultural background. So the eating community and the meal are the basic foundation of all societies. So what we eat have a direct influence in our health. And what we eat depend of the products and consumption and favorite products created and presented to us in our cultural and belief background. It's clear that it's not only biological or geographical conditions that favorite or decrease our health, but it's a fact that food eating and food choices define who we are in long and short term. So it's a very interesting research study from 2015, Concepts of Health and Disease in an integrative approach of health from anthropological perspective. And again, have to do with our cognitive understanding of health. So if you look at this graphic, it's extremely interesting that we have genetic influence. We cannot deny that by the epigenetics and the nutriogenomics. Our nutrition, the food, the diet, the cuisines, lifestyle, that is daily routine, and under behavior is our beliefs, ethical values and food choices, environmental factors like the pollution, for example. All these influence our health. And of course, have the background of the medical care through the drugs and the different health services. But it's extremely interesting that especially the red circle, the medical care, is reduced intensively in proportion to the population between the so-called underdeveloped continents and the high developed continents. But the ones that suffer the most are exactly the ones with the higher and sophisticated medical care, but they undermine the other main elements that we already mentioned here. So let us summarize and put together all these important factors. The World Health Organization established this conceptual diagram that we can see here related with quality of life and have to do with the individual perception about health. So, and these have a context, and the context is value systems and culture, because these define what kind of food we choose, the portions that we serve ourselves, the combination of these products, the socialization in the intake of food, especially related with the goals of food. We see food as an element of placebo. One of the main elements of obesity is not only the high level of sugars, fats, and carbohydrate elements in food, but also the lack of exercise, and especially related with stress, depression, and anxiety. So the goals of humans for nourishment is connected with the way how we see food and in consequence our health. The expectations. In the developing countries, eating is connected with a pleasing, social, and self-realizatory way of pleasure. In the underdeveloped countries, it's a need and is considered a vital element to stay alive, a vital concept. So the physical health connected with the psychological health develop also the level of independence interrelated with the community and the cultural concept. And of course, the result of it will be our social relationship. So environment, personal values, beliefs, and internal and physical condition influence in a direct way our perception about health, and is already proven in the disparity of values among continents toward COVID-19. So 3 John 1:2 presents us again this integrative and completed perception of health according to the biblical concept. I pray that you may enjoy good health and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. So this three-dimensionality in the concept of health, one is clearly considered the physicality. The other is related with the environment, that everything is going well. And your soul, the emotional, spiritual, and psychological aspect. So may the Lord help us to understand the reality of this pandemic and the real reasons of the spreading of this sickness, especially concentrated in continental regions with specific characteristics. We have a privilege to have the Bible knowledge, to have the Bible culture about nourishment and health approach and right behavior toward physicality and emotional balance. So may the Lord help us to appreciate that and implement it every single day. Thank you so much.